Class, and welcome to the last video lesson of Unit 1. This is a little bit of warm-up, so this will be extra practice, and then we're going to take a look at the practice test you wrote. So number 1 says identify each of the following relations as either a linear relation, LR, linear function, LF, nonlinear function, NLF, or nonlinear relation, NLR. Okay, so let's practice these. Hopefully you recognize A, folks, has got x squared plus minus y squared in it. It's close to the circle equation. It's nonlinear, and it is not going to pass the VLT test when you graph this, so it is going to be a nonlinear relation. Okay. Next one, x equals 0. Folks, first of all, we know it's linear because there's no equations, but it's in the form x equals. So that's the exception. That's a vertical line. That's the exception where the function is not a relation for linear, so it's a linear relation. So what that graph would be, folks, is if x equals 0, it's actually going to be the y-axis. So it will not pass the vertical line test. All right, C, folks, y equals -3. First of all, there's no exponent, so we know it's linear. And it's a horizontal line at -3. So if you need a quick visual, be right here at -3. So that would pass the vertical line test, so it would be a linear function. Taking a look at D, folks, there's a squared function, a squared amount to it, so it's going to be nonlinear, and it's a parabola, so it's going to be a function. Just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, the negative out front is something we haven't seen. If we have a regular parabola, looks like this, and that's y equals x squared, and if we put a negative in front, ladies and gentlemen, we actually flip it. It's going to go upside down. So these are some cool things that we're going to be doing in class this semester. We're going to flip it, or called reflect the x-axis. So get ready for that. And because it's a parabola, it'll pass the vertical line test. Okay, section E, ladies and gentlemen. We need to see if it's linear. You test by doing the first differences. Please do not forget your communication on your test of delta y and delta x. Okay, delta y is x, and is 1, sorry, and delta y, taking a look, lower subtract upper. This is 2, and then 1, and then -1. So in fact, ladies and gentlemen, it's linear because each x has its own y, but it is not a function. Well, take a look at this for a second, ladies and gentlemen. Does the pattern follow anything? No, so it can't be linear. So this is an example of a non-linear function. You're probably going to say, how can I tell? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you grabbed a graphing calculator, plotted those points, you would see that they're not going in a straight line. And you would also notice that there is a couple repeats here in terms of your x and y value. Okay, so that's a non-linear function because each x does not have its own y. Okay, next one. Taking a look, ladies and gentlemen. Delta x and delta y. Okay, first differences here, ladies and gentlemen, are 1. And here, ladies and gentlemen, it is 5, -15, and 5. So again, folks, this is non-linear, and this is going to be a nonlinear relation. Now, the reason why this is going to be a nonlinear relation, folks, is if you look at right here and here, notice x has a value of 20 when it's 1, and x also has a value of 10 when it's 1. So it would not pass the vertical line test. Here's a case where each x does not have only one y, because when x equals 1, y equals two numbers. It equals 10 and 20. So that's why that is a relation and not a function. Okay, I apologize, folks. Let's just back up to E. This is a nonlinear function. Okay, it's nonlinear because it does not pass the vertical line test. It's a function because each x has its own y. Please, if I think I said something incorrectly there, so just back up what I just said, and hopefully that's okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, G, it's a really cool curve. It's called a sinusoidal curve, and you do sinusoidal functions in grade 11. Okay, so they're waves. It's based on trigonometry, actually. And as we pass the vertical line test, it is going to be a function because it passes the vertical line test, but you can see it's curved, so it's non-linear. So stay tuned for that in grade 11, folks. It's awesome. Okay, number 2. Determine the rule that defines each linear relation. Okay, so first of all, we know this is linear because there's no an a because there's no exponents, but we want to get the rule, so we're going to put it in the form y equals mx plus b. So currently we've got negative y on this side, so we're going to move everything else over. So negative 4x plus 13. Okay, then to get y by itself, currently it's negative y, so you divide each term by negative 1. So y equals 4x minus 13. Okay, second of all, this one's a little harder because it doesn't give the equation, so we've got to determine the equation. And in order to get the equation, we need a slope and a y-intercept, and they don't give us either. So that means this question is going to require a lot more work and be worth a lot more marks when I'm grading your test, okay? So just remember, folks, it's x1, y1, x2, y2. For those who still need it, put it on to find the slope. Just give me your formula. That's a good thing to do when you get your test. Write that formula right down. Okay? Sub in your values. You're going to have 3 subtract 6 over negative 7 plus 2. Simplify that. It's going to be negative 3 over 5. So there's my first step, is my slope. Then to find b, you got to sub your slope in. So it's going to be y equals negative 3/5 x plus b. And then we're going to use an ordered pair to sub in. I'm going to use f because it's got smaller numbers. So I'll sub in, instead of y, I'm going to put a 6 equals negative 3/5. Instead of x, I'm going to put negative 2 plus b. So what do I end up with? 6 equals negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. So we got 6/5 plus b. To get b by itself, you move the other things over, so it's going to be 6 subtract 6/5. You can use your calculator to do that, folks, or you can change it to lowest common denominator of 6, so it would be 36 subtract 6, my fault. 30 over 5 subtract 6 over 5. Okay, so that would be a total of 24/5. I know, crazy fractions, eh? Grade 10 gets a little hard. All right, here we go. Let's sub it in now. Y equals negative 3/5 x plus 24 over 5. All right. Here we go. C, again, in order to do C, to get the equation, we need a b value and a slope value. First thing we know is that the b value occurs when x equals 0, so I now know b equals 6. And to find my slope, I've got to do my first differences. Please don't forget your communication. So change in x is 1. What about change in y? 12 subtract 9 is 3. 9 subtract 6. You'll see a pattern here, folks. Okay, so we already know b equals 6. Our slope equals, tell me the formula, delta y over delta x. So this is going to equal 3 over 1. So slope is going to equal 3. I've got my slope, got my y-intercept, okay? And I'm going to go therefore y equals 3x plus 6. All right. Okay. Next question, ladies and gentlemen, we have D is a graph. Okay, so first thing we have to do is take a look at where my y-intercept is. That's a tricky one. It's halfway between, and it's negative, so b equals negative 1/2. Okay, and to do my slope, I'm going to look for, you could choose this triangle here, guys, but you could also use a smaller one. So I'm going to use a smaller one because I like dealing with smaller numbers. All right, so for my triangle, the one in the red, I'm going to rise. What value, folks? Be careful here. As I go from left to right, am I actually rising or falling? I'm falling, so it's going to be negative 1. My run is going to equal 2. So then I do my slope formula. Give me it. So it's rise over run. So my slope equals negative 1 over 2. So therefore, my equation is y equals negative 1/2 x minus 1/2. Isn't that funny? They're both the same. That's not usual, guys. That just happened to be in this situation. All right. So here's a word problem practice, folks. George started a job cutting grass. He gets paid $30 per hour per lawn, plus a $15 starting bonus. If he cuts up to 15 lawns, create an equation, a table, a graph, not a sketch, and then predict for 20 lawns. So here is, folks, using extrapolation. So make sure when you set up your graph, this is going to be number of lawns. Okay, always get practice to look at that, and you're going to go all the way to 20. Okay? Even though he cuts up to 15, we're then going to make a prediction. So when you do your graph, guys, it's going to be a solid line to 15 and then a dashed line beyond. Make sure you come up with your equation. So to help you out, your general equation is going to be y equals 30x plus 50, where x is the number of lawns. Okay? You can use extrapolation as long as your graph works, but I'd rather you use your equation. So to solve this, okay, now that we've got our equation, you're going to sub in x equals 20 into your equation. So it's going to be y equals 30 times 20 plus 50. Plug your calculator in, and that's going to be 650 total. Okay, check on your graph to see if that makes sense. All right, and don't forget to try this, folks. Another little bit of a word problem, page 62, 63, number 10. Now, attached here, ladies and gentlemen, is the master test for the practice test. Okay, one thing I want to note here, folks, is 3 or 4 years ago, we decided to change, and instead of using decimals, we decided to change them to improper fractions. So m equals negative 11 over 5 is what you should have here. So your equation should be y equals negative 11 over 5, my fault, x. So negative 11 over 5x plus 184. Okay, so please fix that. The rest should be fine. One thing I want to comment is on the back side, folks, double check this out. Okay, some of you are probably trying to find b from that, and it's too hard to guess. So you've got to sub it into the equation like I did up here. So I used my ordered pair, 6,000 and 400,000. Be careful, it looks like 60 and 40 on your graph, but don't forget about the scales I talked about here and here. Okay, please see me in class if you need help with that. And likewise for your last example, please make sure to find b that you sub in a point, because you had to use a break, ladies and gentlemen, in your data, so you could not just go and get the y-intercept from here. You cannot do that because that's not joined, okay? All right. Hopefully you have fun doing your graphing doing your practice test. Please come and see me for extra help, and namaste.